All right, we are live on the Live Reality Games Facebook page and YouTube channel. And if you're listening to the podcast in the future, I will upload it later. I'm so excited today. We are recapping Survival Challenge, episode 14. And I'm Hannah. I am the editor of the episode, and I'm on the production team. Mike, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Mike. I'm probably on the future production team.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it'll be fun. So we'll see what happens this summer if I'm free. But I actually am the producer / director of Survivor Buffalo. So that season 3 will be coming out soon. I don't have a date yet for it, but it'll be coming out soon. So get your applications in for season 4. But yeah, so I have kind of some experience with kind of where Hannah's dabbling as well. And so seeing that from that perspective, but then watching some of the other live reality shows has been a lot of fun in my quarantine. So now I get to talk about it. So it's super exciting.
Yes. And our other co-host, Steven, couldn't be here tonight, but he sent some questions for you guys. And the you guys I'm talking to are our special guests, Gracie and Louie. We are so excited you guys are here to talk all things Survival Challenge. How's it going, guys?
Ooh, it's going awesome. I'm so excited to be here.
Fantastic.
Great.
I'm very excited. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So, we are recapping this on a Monday night. The episode dropped Friday night. Mike, you are our resident, doesn't know what's happening guy.
No idea.
You are just following along as they get released. So this is a spoiler-free episode. Mm-hmm. Spoiler-free. When I was writing out questions to ask Gracie and Louie, I was like, okay, I can't say that because that'll give away what happens. But Mike, what are your thoughts about this episode or what we saw, what's going on? What did you think?
Yeah, I think in all, it's a really good episode. I think it's a lot of fun. I think David says something really interesting in one of the tribal councils where, tribal lines kind of aren't there anymore. People are kind of voting in voting blocks, and they're not really sticking with those tribal lines. And I find it really interesting because it was so easy to do, and yet nobody really chose to do that. And then nobody did. So everyone's kind of flip-flopping around. I thought just watching Anthony play that middle of the road game, but it not really matter, which I have a lot of questions for the two of you. But just watching that happen and then seeing that 5-2 vote where he was actually on the outside of the vote was I was like, oh, well, that didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out. So that was really fun to watch. I think just in general, I think that the 5 people that are left are super solid in different types of gameplay, which has been really fun to watch. I don't think there's a front runner at all, at least from the editing, which I will credit you, Hannah, but also the gameplay. I think that all of you are playing such different games, and nobody even just looking at you and Louie and Gracie, the two of you, you're playing 2 very different games, but yet you're both front runners in different ways. And so watching Gracie's kind of under the radar, and even watching the episode too, it was fun to watch both of you because you were almost in every conversation during that montage right before that final one with Rachel. And I'm like, oh my God, they're literally in every conversation. So watching the two of you just kind of working your magic kind of under the radar, behind the scenes, one of the, and I guess we'll get to certain things, but one of the things that I thought was really powerful was watching kind of Rachel kind of communicate, I think, what everyone was thinking, but not actually be on the same page as the rest of the group. So that was really interesting to watch. Gracie and Rachel's conversation in the Justin Tribal Council behind Justin's back was just Justin's oh yeah, let's mix things up. And Rachel and Gracie are like, and I was like, okay, that's cool. See that happening. So that was fun to watch.
Block that.
Louie, your way of talking at Tribal Council is so smooth. And I think I think a lot of Hannah's quotes that she takes for her titles, I think are from Louie, mostly. I don't even know.
We were just talking about that before we started, about where the episode titles come from.
Yeah, I think the last one was Gracie. The one before that, I think, was Louie. But
I
just
think
like
I've had one or two for sure.
yeah, like just the way you speak at tribal council, and I think the way the jury is picking up on that is really interesting. Now I'm thinking of it if I was sitting on the jury, like I would be like hearing that and noticing that. Gracie, I think the way you present yourself at tribal council is really solid. I think David is the one to beat if you're looking at like the scheme of the game, but I think David is obviously too obvious of a winner. So I think jury itself might also be against him. So that's kind of like my hot take at this point is that I think David is a shoo-in to win and lose miserably. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm sure you all know what the real answer is. I think Rachel's demise was her trying to like pull off the vote against Bobby after he already won immunity. So Gracie, I guess I want to kind of transition to that. Like you were in that conversation in the water, and like you and David were just like awkward. Like, how did like what did like was that where it turned on Rachel?
Yes, absolutely. That was the beginning of the end for me and Rachel both, I think. And it was just, I think that was her one flaw. I feel like that whole game, she had a really incredible game. And when she made that blunder in the water, I don't think she realized how close David and Bobby were. And I think she thought David would kind of come with me and her. And then that there was no recovery from that. So a lot of the conversations after that, like I knew David ran and told Bobby they didn't. So it was for sure Rachel after that. There was no going back. And as we were walking into tribal, she goes, if it's me now, it's you next. And I just said, I know. We walked in.
Wow.
Yeah, I was wondering because there was a conversation that we saw during the walkthrough that the two of you were having. So yeah, that's interesting.
But that's what, yeah. And I mean, when I was talking with her, I was like, I don't think that's the case. Like, you know, I was just saying that too, because I didn't tell her she was going home. I think it was probably pretty obvious to her. But I just had to kind of be like, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. So that's where we fell leading up into tribal council.
That was like one of the biggest moments from the episode was that little part in the water. You also like brought up like a ton of stuff that happened. But I also have like some questions for Gracie and Louie of like previous episodes real quick. Like Steven had a question for Louie that I want to get to, but like, I also want to ask you guys, this like some general questions about the episode so far. Like, has anything surprised you in the episodes so far? Or what were you looking forward to seeing when, like, you know, when the episodes were coming out, you're like, oh, I can't wait to see this that we've seen so far. And I have a question for Louie from Steven that we could talk about too. But does anything come to mind when you guys think that? Yeah, Gracie?
Yeah. I think there was a couple people where I just didn't, in the game, I just didn't see anything from. Like, I was just like, they're not playing, that they're not good. And so I was curious on the other side of, were they doing anything? Because I didn't see anything. My read on them was I don't admire their game or whatever it was. So I was curious, did they do more than what I saw in the game? And so
do you want to drop any names? You don't have to.
Well, I mean, I didn't work closely. Like, I mean, you can tell too in all the episodes. Bobby and I didn't talk once. Anthony, I didn't really work with him very well. And David, I talked with a couple of times, but I just didn't see anything that they were doing. And a couple of the conversations I had with Anthony, he almost blew the Luke vote for us. I was trying to whisper to him at one point. That was like, so the Luke vote was my big move. It was like the time where I'm all in. This is where in the tribal council, like when I wrote Luke's name, I said, my hands are no longer clean because I needed to like have a dirty resume. Like I needed to piss people off. So I didn't go totally under the radar and wasn't an easy target. And so, anyways, we were with Luke. Louie, do you remember this? Do you remember when we were back at camp? It was like lunch break. And anyways, who was like the supposed to be vote? David. I think it was David. So that was the fake vote was David. And that's what we told Luke.
Mhm.
And we were back at camp. And so Luke was like, so we're doing David, right? I'm like, yes. And then Luke turns around and walks back. And I go to Anthony and I go, and he goes, what? And he says it really loud. Like Anthony says, what? And Luke turns around and I go, no, yeah, it's David. And then like Luke kind of and then Anthony's like, what? You just mouthed something. What did you say? Like he said that out loud. And I am thinking, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? And so I cover, I'm like, yeah, it's David. And so Luke goes away and I'm like, no, the vote is Luke. Like, I don't know what, it was like such a bizarre, like, I struggled a lot. So from then on, Anthony, I was like, what are you doing? What are you even are you even playing? So I was curious.
Get on my level.
Subtlety at a 0.
Yes. So I was like, I will never work with you.
Have the confessionals or the tribals kind of like opened your eyes about more of what they were doing? Or
yeah. I mean, I see that he's thinking. And so that's helpful of like, okay, so you're trying to act aloof here. Mm-hmm. But, and then, you know, David too, I felt like there was a couple times he told me like, hey, like I really want women in here. I want a girl in here. And like, I'm willing to kind of lay on my sword. He told me that probably 2 or 3 times. And so I was like, are you even wanting to play? Like, why are you even here? So I got this vibe of like, why are you even playing if you just are going to lay on your sword? So and then Bobby's idol play. I was like, why did you play the idol? You were totally safe. And so I was curious about those 3. Like, what kind of game did they play? Because I didn't see a lot from where I was standing in the game.
Love it. You know me, if a guy said that to me, I will lay on my sword for a girl. I'd be like, yep, all right, bye.
Yeah.
Right onto it, right?
Sounds good. Louie, what about you? What comes to mind for you?
Kind of similar in the same vein to what Gracie said. I think because we are pre-merge, there was no swapping. I was very curious to see what was going on at the other tribes, because once the merge hit, I think there was a little bit of hesitation to really blur the lines between the tribes, because it was just, you didn't want to put that target on your back. Obviously, I think what broke that open was the Luke vote, and it was like about time. But because everyone had such strong connections with their original tribes, sharing secrets didn't exist to the extent that I guess I wish I did. And maybe that's a part of like, I just didn't really ask anybody for their information. I wanted people to be more forthcoming about it in the moment. So I would say definitely, I was interested in definitely watching the pre-merge happen, just to see what was, because I had never even seen the Zika camp. I still haven't been there to see like what their life was like. And you only get slivers of people's experiences post-merge anyway. But I think something that also surprised me about myself was how reserved I was. I'm not a reserved person, but how reserved I was about talking strategy in my confessionals. I think I was really holding my cards close to my chest because I was so afraid to make any definitive decisions, because playing a game that happens so fast, if I line it up, like all it takes is a 30-second conversation to completely change your course of action. And I think you can see that in the confessionals that I'm giving of, I'm just like, it's just managing my own threat level. I'm not even super thinking out the strategic steps that I need to, not to say that I'm not playing strategically, but that was more happening in the conversations with people than it was of me in confessionals talking about it.
That's like me as a teacher, Mike. That's like, I have lesson plans, but but like, you know, the plans could go out the window when I'm teaching, you know, it could just just roll with it. Mike's a teacher too. So Louie, speaking of confessionals, I mean, as the players know, and as I sadly have been living the reality, that our last night of confessionals were completely lost due to a broken microphone, which sucks completely. So we don't have the confessionals from you guys on the last night. That being said, Louie, I remember your last night confessionals where you are just down in the dumps because you know that you're getting voted out the next day. And this is kind of leads into Steven's question for you. He says, we heard a lot in the last recap that Louie was the intended vote. And thanks to having one more night the target shifted off of him. And so Steven wants to know, what did you do to help achieve that? I feel like I've heard a lot about this before, but share with everybody about what happened in that night. And I remember your confessional where you had your fake idol. You were like, anything can
Yeah, a
happen.
lot of things went on. Yeah, so I guess the story really starts when David goes to Exile Island, and Rachel had just won immunity, and it was Rachel, Gracie, and I back at camp doing nothing. And I don't think there was any footage of that moment either, but I think I've gone on record saying that this is one of my favorite moments in the game because with both Gracie and Rachel, I felt super comfortable with just talking out loud strategy wise. And I felt like it was reciprocated. We talked through everything, whether or not it was in my favor. Everybody was just talking and saying the words. And I knew at this point that I was on the hot seat. I was going to go the next time we were going to tribal council, which we were convinced was that night, it was going to be me. And we talked through every single strategy in a way to like get it off me, and that we just could not come up with anything. And the idea was like, you should maybe make a fake idol. And so I started doing the fake idol was very bad. It was truly like Eliza Orland's It's Just Stick, you know, that I like carved the word idol into. But I was like, at this point, I was trying literally anything to save my butt. And I didn't understand why people were coming for me as opposed to going for someone like Julia. I remember in my confessional, I was like, why is nobody even mentioning Julia's name? And that was the name that I thought I would have the most leverage with. If I was going to get the target moved on to anybody else, it was going to be Julia. And I loved Julia. And I loved the way she was playing. We just didn't have that relationship pre-merge like I did with Gracie. Then I was like, I'm not going to throw Gracie under the bus here when I can throw Julia under the bus. And so what happened was that night, everyone comes back to camp, and the night is winding down, and I'm lying down next to Julia, and she kind of like shimmies next to me, and we're having this like whispered conversation. Poor Julia had to suffer through. I still had like smoothie breath from that challenge today, which is so unfortunate. And she essentially pitches me the idea that we need to get Gracie out. And I am, oh my God, that's such a good idea. I'm totally on board. Really made her think that like, this is what we're doing. It's not going to be me. Because once we realized we weren't going to tribal council, it was like, I need to get this target off my back. And the second after we had that conversation, or maybe not the second after, but after that conversation, it might have been right after, or it might have been a couple hours later, at some point in the night, I then go over to Gracie. And I'm Gracie, were you sleeping? You might've been sleeping.
No, I was not sleeping. I did not sleep.
I was like, Julia is coming for you hardcore. Like, she wants it to be you, and she's trying to, roll this snowball down the hill and get it started. And I think really that's what, and then the chaos ensued throughout the night. The strategy kept talking, and it, the story of like, if we don't get out Julia now, she's going to keep trying to do these like, sniper moves, and she's going to make it to the end because nobody's talking about it. And that's, the short story version of that very long night was how it shifted from me to Julia. And that saved me. That night truly did save me, because there was no way I was making it out of tribal council if we had gone that night.
I have a question. So you talk about like at night, strategizing at night, and making stuff happen. When I'm remembering when I played Survival Challenge, there wasn't much to do. Did you guys like go to the bathroom? Was it always just like going up next to someone, like laying down and whispering? Like, what do you mean strategizing at night? Like, I remember one time I told someone like, hey, meet me in the woods, like in 5 minutes, but it's pitch black. Like,
so uncomfortable.
So how did you do it? What did you do?
Yeah, it's hard to strategize at night because it is dark and you can't really see. So you can't go too far from the fire. Or if you do, it's quite obvious that people are missing, because you also don't want to make it seem like you've gone away with anybody. So the big strategy talk usually was going to the bathroom. So people were like, oh, I'm going to go to the porta potty, and then chunks of people would go.
But could you do that at night?
We did.
Okay.
Oh, well,
Okay.
people disappeared at night for sure.
Mhm.
It just was difficult.
Yeah.
The strategy talk that happened in my experiences all were whisper conversations, usually in the middle of the night when people are trying to catch some form of sleep. This wasn't the merge, but I know on Upan camp, we would tend to the fire, and like if you were sitting across from somebody on the fire, you could have conversations.
Okay.
Collecting firewood was a
okay.
big one.
Mhm.
Collecting firewood for sure.
Okay. Cool.
But
I was just thinking
it is
about
hard to strategize at night.
Yeah, like I just remember at night like barely being able to. So I was very curious about that. Do you guys want to jump into the episode? Yeah, Mike, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess my questions before this episode, like going into the merge and like, so what were like the tribal thoughts? Like, I know Luke was kind of like somebody that you eventually did want to take out, but like, was Justin on your radar? Was Justin somebody you were going to eventually pick off? Or was that just kind of like in the moment that it just, the numbers were against him, so you guys went with it? Like, what was that kind of thinking leading up to this episode?
Yeah, Justin and I were really close at the very beginning. And so I had no intention of getting rid of Justin at any point. However, there was kind of like a turning point for Justin where he started getting super paranoid, super scared. He stopped strategizing. It was me trying to confirm, hey, you're okay. You're okay. Like it was so much of that. Like, so I could no longer talk strategy with him. And that's when Louie and I got really close because Louie was now my person I was strategizing with. And that conversation with Luke happened in the water with Louie. So it kind of transitioned when Justin started getting really scared, really nervous, really paranoid. And that last night he was really struggling and he was just like, it's me. I know it's me, guys. I know it's me. And we're like, your name hasn't even come up. And apparently he was scrambling and trying to get at like, saying, hey, I'm with Zika now. And so there was a lot of like scrambling for him. So he wasn't an asset to me anymore, simply because like I feel like I was just trying to calm him down. But then the tribal where he did go home, he played great. And I was really frustrated in my confessional of like, why didn't you play this game the whole time? Like this is what I was needing and wanting. And so I think it was, for me, he became less valuable to me and it was more of a liability for him because he was just like, he would flip really quickly just because he was trying to save himself, but it was really hard to work with someone like that.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about the messy love triangle. So Louie became your number one event after that, later on that day.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Cause Louie and I could strategize and we could pitch any name and I didn't feel like he would throw me under the bus. And I mean, we briefly mentioned this before we came on, but Louie and I think we both had we were both in it to play and we were going to play hard. And so even if like, we knew we could work together for now, but we weren't like, hey, I'm not going to ever put your name down. So I like that we were both wanting to play really hard. And we respected each other's game in that way.
Louie, did you have a number one in, I mean, like, I don't, did you like have anybody, like was Gracie or like messy love triangle
Gracie
person?
was definitely great. Gracie definitely was always in my number one slot for the majority of the game, I should say, because I think Justin and I started in the same car in the beginning. So we just naturally started speaking first. And he's the kind of the one who was like, listen, I like Gracie, like maybe the three of us can do something. So he was definitely critical to my game and he was my top ally until his own paranoia unraveled his game. And that being said, like Justin did move mountains to save both Gracie and I. It's separate, he played extra votes or, Gracie played, we were really working together and for each other. But I think the later you got in the game, the more you began to, peel back those layers of, all right, well, when do I start thinking about what's better for me? And, I think because Justin was so paranoid, he also, his paranoia then became a conversation, which then put the target on him. Because I think he did have threatening qualities about it, but specifically with the Justin vote, I don't know if we want to go there yet, but
Sure.
that wasn't super deadlocked going into that tribal council. As you can
Mhm.
see, it obviously had come up, but there's so little time in between, when the challenge is done and tribal council happens, that it's a mad scramble, because not only do you want to have conversations with the people that you're aligned with, but you want to be in conversations with the people you're not aligned with, and make sure you're, as fast as you can, you're fact checking stories. And it truly becomes chaotic. And what I loved about Gracie was, like, I never felt that Gracie would lie to me truly and throw me under the bus. And if she was, like, I felt like maybe if anyone could lie to me, I might be able to pick it out from her, because I've been working with her for so long.
Mhm.
So, there was a comfort with working with Gracie, for sure. And I remember in that tribal council, Gracie looks at me like, well, which one are we going to do? And Justin. It was just, we locked it in there. And I think that's also like when Rachel's doing the signals behind, like, what are we locking in here?
Yeah, I mean, I loved that tribal council. I loved editing it because I did not remember any of it from being there in person. Like, I was a dead person on Sunday, but I'm sure you guys were too. But it was like all a blur. And so when I'm editing it, I was like, oh my gosh, this live tribal is so fun right now. That is how you do tribal. If you think you're going out, like, I feel like that was perfect what Justin did. So I pulled up when I was watching it. I didn't even notice this when I was editing it, but when I was watching it, and so I noticed, of course, the pointing and the whatever behind the backs between Gracie and Rachel. But what I noticed this time was, I think that Rachel says to Gracie, or like mouths to Gracie, like, Anthony? And Gracie goes, what? And she goes, oh, Justin? And you guys are like, yeah. So I just wanted to show this, if that's what I think I see. So go ahead. I turned the sound off. I don't think we need the sound, but so here we go. Justin has started the live tribal. All right, let's see. She goes, Anthony? And then Justin? I don't know. Do you guys see what I see? I don't know.
I see it now.
I don't know. But so, like, would you guys have done Anthony if that was, like, if it was Anthony or Justin? Or I don't know if you guys have that, if you guys can think of what you were thinking at that point.
Yeah. Anthony was such a non-threat to me. I didn't see his game, and I was like, I can go. I don't care how far he goes.
His aloof was working.
Yeah.
Well, I think also the thing about Anthony was he felt like a sole number. Like, he didn't feel like he was as threatening as someone who was like in a pack. So, like, it was like,
right.
There was the 3 Zika people, there was the 3 Upon people, and then there was Anthony.
Yeah.
And to me, that always felt like we can get the numbers to get one person out. But let's make them, but in order to do that, like, maybe we can cultivate some trust or something. To me, it felt like there was more options keeping Anthony over maybe Justin in that moment.
Yeah, a big thing I remember too is right before that tribal, when I was talking with Rachel leading up to it, she's like, it's got to be Justin. I was like, no, like, I don't think it needs to be him. I think we should do Anthony. Like, even when we were in the sands, like, digging forever, we said Anthony. Like, me, Bobby, and Rachel. Like, in digging, I go, I think it should be Anthony. And then that didn't stick. But, like, Rachel went and talked with Bobby and David, and they said Justin. And so she came back with a hard Justin. I was like, I don't think so. But at that point too, I was having a hard time talking with Justin at all. And so it was like, well, not doing me good anyways right now. And Rachel was one of my, like, Rachel and I became super close. I feel like come merged. And then the time with me, Louie, and Rachel, like, really solidified, like, I could talk strategy with these two easily. And so I was more willing to work with Rachel than I was with Justin at that point. And Rachel felt really strongly about it being Justin. And so I wasn't going to quibble.
Yeah.
I went for it.
Yeah, now that you say that, Gracie, Rachel, that was a big factor in the vote because I wanted to show Rachel that I was willing to work with her as well.
Same.
From the previous day conversation, because I meant what I had said of like, I like working. I mean, I naturally bond better with women anyway, but to me, I was like, this is, we can toss Justin aside for now and I can swoop Rachel in. I feel like that was working better for me. Little did I know everyone's plotting against anybody anyway, but
Yes.
for my game, that's what I wanted to work with.
And if you think about the two demeanors, like Rachel is, there's probably never a frantic Rachel. Like she's probably always like
so calm,
cool, calm. And so it's like, it's easier to go with like a comfortable ally.
I strive to reach her level of calm always.
Always try to look like her as far as calm.
As chill as Rachel. Speaking of Rachel, she couldn't make it tonight because she had some other commitments, but she was invited. What do you guys think about? Do you guys want to talk about the challenge at all? Rachel in the sand pit.
Watching this was so painful. Like it would flash back to her and I'm like, is this like the whole challenge? She's in this pit. And like literally by the end of it, everybody's on the puzzle and she's still in the pit. And I'm like, no, this has to be editing, Hannah. But it wasn't.
No.
It was her in the pit the whole time.
And the cheers she got when she finally got the piece. It was so sweet.
I felt so bad for her.
I know.
I was in the sand pit a while well.
You kicking that sand, Louie.
I started that challenge off really strong. I don't know why I chose the water first. But I chose the water first, which was a terrible idea because then when I got to the sand, I was like essentially a breaded chicken cutlet. It was terrible.
They should always make it that way.
And the water first. Truly. Yeah. But
that's why I
was digging in that pit for so long. Look how deep I am. I'm literally digging my own grave. I was literally hitting water. I was truly hitting water. I was like, where the hell is this piece? Where is it? I felt like I had like dug so far the entire square. I was like, maybe I picked a hole that doesn't have one.
I texted.
I'm over it.
While I was editing, I texted someone like, if I was Rachel, or I guess Louie, like if I was digging for 20 minutes and I hadn't found the piece yet, I would have just sat and maybe cried. I think she is such a trooper. Like I was just like, it's not in here. I can't find it.
No, so brutal. But I did love the like, I hate you, I love you. Like
that
I
was
just
so
like so tender.
Yeah, what was your guys' favorite part of that challenge? Or like I look at the prison.
Not the lobster net, I can tell you that.
No, but getting the key in the pole, prison break or whatever it's called, jailbreak.
Yeah.
I have wanted to do that challenge forever. That looks so fun. It's like a legit Survivor challenge. Like, do you have a favorite part of that challenge?
One that I learned that I'm also not good at because I don't think it's shown there, but I don't make it past that. I drop the key, I swear, and then my stick breaks and I can never get the key. So it was, and what they also don't see is that you're not given an unlimited amount of supplies. You were given like 5 pieces of string and 3 bamboo sticks. So you had to like make it work with what you had. And I already spent so much time like building what I thought was a sturdy stick, but it was not a sturdy stick. So at that point I had spent like 15 minutes in the sand. I was like, this is my last piece, is all I need. And it didn't work out well for me.
How did you get the key then if it fell on the ground?
I did.
You did get it. Okay.
You never made it to the puzzle, did you?
I never made it to the puzzle.
Oh.
Can we talk about the puzzle though? Like I mean, Rachel was in the pit for a really long time, but I feel like everybody was also working that puzzle for a really long time.
Steven.
It was just a 5-piece tangram, right? No, I don't claim to know how to do it either.
The 5-piece tangram,
but it's just so interesting. I know, like you think of it as such like an easy, like right? It's just 5 pieces, but then you've got like a triangle sticking out here. You've got like a piece that doesn't line up there. So like what was going through your head? Because Gracie, you were there at that point. Like, what was going through your head during this tangram? Like, you're putting the pieces all together, but like nobody's figured it out yet.
Yeah. I mean, I thought if I could make it to the puzzle, because Anthony had been there forever, and then David, and so I was like, if I can just make it to the puzzle, I'll win it. Like, I'm good at puzzles. I had practiced tangrams for like weeks leading up to the event, so like I was super confident in tangrams. I don't know. I mean, I think 5 days, no food, no sleep.
Yeah.
Like my brain was just fried. And so I was flipping and everything. Like I thought, I mean, that was totally my challenge to win. Like having all, like, that was by far my favorite challenge, by the way. Like, I loved how it displayed different skill sets. It required like endurance. It required smarts. And it required finesse. Like, definitely my favorite. I would have loved like a balance aspect in it.
Ooh.
But because I did tons of balance work before coming on too. So anyways, I loved that challenge.
For the record, I have made that puzzle and made friends do it, and they always need a clue. Like, I don't let them go for 20 minutes. Like, I could, but they all, like, you really have to think outside the box with that puzzle. So even people who are like normal can't do it.
Yeah.
It's probably best I didn't make it to the puzzle. It would have been a humbling experience to top it all off. You know,
it was infuriating. It was defeating because I was like, this is mine to win. Like, as soon as I got there, I was like, it's going to take me less than a minute to get this. And so
that's another question that I have for you guys too, because I know, like, having played Survivor Buffalo and directed it as well, like, I've watched people kind of be surprised by the challenges that they lose, but also by the challenges that they tend to do well in. Were you surprised by anything that you did well in during the series?
No, I mean, I'm super good at balance. I've always been good at balance, like grew up horseback riding. So I was just waiting for all the balance challenges and all the endurance challenges because I'm an endurance athlete. And so that's why I love that one, is because I feel like I could just run forever if I'm given the chance, and balance too. So I knew I'd be good at those, but yeah, I thought I'd be way better at the puzzles. And like, you know, the one with Bobby and him memorizing all of those, like that was incredible. And I was really proud of myself for memorizing half of it, you know, and I got that half right. But Bobby was incredible in that and just destroyed it.
Yeah.
So
to this day is probably the most magical thing I've ever seen in my entire life was Bobby. And like, my whole thought process was like, no one's going to be able to memorize this. Let me spend some extra time in the water. I was sitting in the water, like, creating a story. I was like, once was a hippo who befriended a chicken.
Oh, you did it.
And you know, that chicken loved that snake, and the snake was neighbors with the raccoon. I was like, saw me like swimming back. I was like, okay. I was like, remembering my story. I get back. I put one card down. I was like, Bobby wins. What?
Let's watch Louie's face. Louie's face.
Louie, you didn't have any. I don't think you had any on there.
No,
I saw that.
I think I just got to unflip my cards.
Not in me.
And I still remember what you said, Louie. I think I put it in the live chat. I said, Louie says, I can't even remember my last name.
Same.
Oh, it was so good.
At that point in the game, like day 5, and you know, with the heat of those 5 days, that last day was probably the most temperate of the days, but it was so hot.
We were done.
Which is why I was naked the entire time, which sorry, Mom.
Yeah, so that challenge, we talked about the Stay the Course challenge. So Steven,
go ahead.
One.
One. Sorry, that was the one that I had fun with.
Where you were on the wheel, right?
On the wheel, yeah. That's just when I had fun. I don't know
on
if I particularly excelled in that one.
I remember. Is that the barrel one?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys rocked that one.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, you did so good.
Yeah,
I was like, come on, Upan.
We needed it so bad.
Every time we needed that win, we got it, which was such a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely the Goosebumps challenge. That's like when I see that win, I just get goosebumps because it was so great.
Yeah, and I feel like we bonded so much as a tribe in that one too, because we, you know, 2 in a row, the only 2 to go to the only tribe to go to tribal council twice now. And I think that that was really fun. That was a great challenge.
It was
and I liked
the one that was standing on the table and calling the people with they were blindfolded getting the puzzle pieces, which was another Upan win where the other 2 went to tribal council. Both of those to me were fun. And not because of my performance, but because of the win we needed.
Yeah.
The emotion behind it.
Well, I think that's what it is too, right? Right? You get just so excited because you haven't been winning, and then you win, and it's like it just like exudes that or emotes that feeling that makes you like the challenge afterwards.
Totally.
Exactly.
And I remember after our second loss, John was like, okay, I've given you a physical challenge. I've given you a trivia challenge. Like, what do you want? And we're like, just give us blocks. Like, just give us the blocks. And so we won anything that involved blocks. We like destroyed it. You know, anything with like a puzzle and blocks. We really just owned it. And so that was really fun too.
Yeah.
Steven says that he loved the image of Brendan on a stick coming in from jury when Austin carried him on the stick. Did you guys have any idea what was going on with Brendan? Just like John announced that he was having some health issues. Like, what did you guys think about that? Or any?
I think we knew that he had. Maybe we were told he went to the hospital. I remember because he was there for the first. I guess maybe the
very first one.
I think Austin, the one Austin goes out. As I was going up to vote, he actually was running out because he was about to be sick, and I was like, "Oh, what's happening here?" And I just assumed, I was like, "Oh, he probably like ate a bunch of food just now because he just got voted out." And I didn't think anything of it until they came to us and said that he was not doing well. And they might have, I don't remember exactly if they told us that he was in the hospital or not. I feel like they did, but Gracie, do you remember?
No, I don't. I had no idea what was going on. Not a clue.
Just like he shows back up one day and it's like, all right.
Yeah, but we thought it was hilarious that there was like a picture where like, did he die? Like what?
Yeah, it's like what?
But thought about it for like maybe 2.5 seconds and then like did not think about him the rest of the time.
Okay, so here's my next question. So I don't know if I want to spoil how I do in my season, but you know, John starts he brings up several times, I think to you, Louie, as well, but like he asks, are you thinking of what the jury wants to see, right? Wasn't it you, Louie, that you get this question kind of? Like what are you thinking about the jury, about who's in the jury? Were you guys thinking about the jury while you're playing at all? I did not. When I played, I did not think of any jury because I couldn't think. Well, I didn't have the brain space.
I think my answer that I say at tribal council really does, stand true, where because the game is so fast paced, it's not like you're sitting there having conversations with people being like, well, like the jury, like, let's think of who's on the jury right now. I think it's always kind of in the back of your head. But for me personally, I was always under the assumption, if I make it to the end, I think I'm a good enough speaker that I could, talk to anybody. Talking is something that I'm comfortable with. I think I'm a personable person. I'm sociable. And at that point, it's whether, if they're going to believe or like buy what I'm selling, that's on them, because I'm going to sell it as best as I can, because I know that I play the game. So, let me just get there first, and then I'll worry about, because at that point, I also didn't feel like, if I make it to the end, I hadn't really truly upset anybody so hardcore that they'd be like, what the hell was that about? So it certainly wasn't like, I wasn't thinking of the jury as this major obstacle for my end game if I were to make it to the end.
I love what John just said. Louie always seemed angry with my questions. I feel like you would like sigh. Well, John.
Yeah. Well, John. No, I mean, I've never had like anger in my life, but I just think no. Tribal council to me is always just frustrating because you have to, you have to be thinking, you have to give an answer that's going to answer the question, but you don't want to say something that might be too revealing.
Totally.
It's a charade,
And I think what was fun to watch you, Louie, is like you're so articulate that like listening to you at tribal council is like, yes, that's what I would say. I mean, I would not have said it as articulately, but like that's what I would say. Like that would be the right answer. And I think what was so threatening about you is that exact thing. So like you start hearing people talk at tribal council, and suddenly, and I'm sure Gracie thought it once or twice or maybe a million times, is I need to take Louie out. I can't go to the end with Louie because he's going to talk me out of this game. So like, where do you I guess like so answering those questions and being articulate, like how do you then go back to camp and kind of like play the, well, I'm not really a threat. Like how did you, because you did that really well. I think that you were able to kind of still play under the radar while still showing like really good skill.
Well, first of all, thank you. I think the issue, the thing that I battled with most during the game was I'm a big personality. So I know that being under the radar, just like as a social person, it's not going to work for me, because otherwise I'll just be literally just not talking. So it was more about, I'll make people laugh, and I won't be, I was trying to always squash my threat level up strategically, because if I seem funny and I seem strategic, that's a deadly combo. So if I'm just funny, maybe people will think that, oh, he just like makes jokes. You know, how threatening could that be? So, you know, that was a part of my armor. You know, it's always been a part of my armor as a human being, is humor. But, you know, so I use that to my advantage. Just make people laugh. People want to be around people who are a good time. And, you know, if I don't seem super threatening strategically, maybe, you know, this is just one more notch in my belt at the end that I can turn around and be like, ha, gotcha.
Yeah. It was well played.
Speaking of threat level, I mean, Gracie, I feel like we've heard Justin's confessionals over and over again about Gracie. No one brings up her name. Gracie, the under the radar queen. She's got the underdog story. She's got the girl story. So were you thinking about your threat level? And also you can answer the question about the jury, thinking about the jury, but what were you thinking about threat level and jury management or whatever, without spoiling what happens anytime soon?
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about the Luke vote was like the coming out. Like, I think in Upon, it was me, Louie, and Justin were running it in Upon. And that's why, like, no one in our tribe except the three of us knew what was going on at all the whole time. Like, we really were running it. And so, like, when we merged, and I kind of tried to slip back under the radar again, I was like, what am I even doing? Like, I'm not playing for $1 million. This is my one shot. Like, I'm a mom with 3 kids. Like, when else can I do something like this ever again? And so I was like, I would hate to like get to the end and just say, hey, like, I didn't piss anyone off. Like, I played an under the radar game. Like, that would have killed me. It would have like murdered me. Like, I would rather go out in a blaze of glory than make it to the end and not have anything for it. And so that's kind of how I went into the Luke vote of like, okay, I'm going to put myself out there. Like, my name's going to be talked about more because I'm kind of orchestrating this vote. And it's a very controversial vote, like voting out my own player. But so the whole time I just wanted to, like, whatever move I made, I in the game, I just said, I want to be able to, like, when I get to the end, I just want to say I could go up against any one of you. I was in on every one of your votes. And I just so I was thinking the whole time, like, with each move. And I think John asked me in a tribal, like, are you thinking about the jury? Are you thinking about resume? He was talking about resume. And I just said, I think it's as you go, will this add to the resume? It's not necessarily like, okay, what did I do? It was just with each move I chose to do, I knew it would add to my resume. And so that's kind of how I went forward of, hey, I'm going to play all out. And if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out and blaze of glory. Because I didn't want to be under the radar. And so that's why I kind of stepped up a little bit more and was a little bit more vocal of a player.
Last recap, Travis and Justin were on, and we talked about how Gracie, how you would like initiated that move by going up to people like, are you ready to play? Do you remember that?
Yes.
They said big eyes, like, are you ready? Are you ready to play?
We're going to make a move.
Yes.
Poor Luke.
Everyone was skirting around it. So, like, everyone was just being so careful. Because what Louie said, we just had no idea where lines felt, like who could work with who. Like, we had this rough Kia Upon thing going on, but no one wanted to like ruffle feathers. And so I had this moment. I think it was, I don't know if it was in a confessional or what, but I was like, I gotta get blood on my hands. And so that's why it was just like, let's play. And so that's why I knew Travis, I love you. You're such an incredible player. Like, I knew Travis would be totally on board with it. I mean, Louie and I, that started in the water. And so it was just, I wanted to bring in players that would be willing to like, yeah, let's shake some things up.
I love it.
I was ready.
Yeah,
and I was ready to get rid of Luke because he had written my name down. At like,
never forget.
Never forget.
I had no idea Luke trusted me that much. Not a clue.
I think it's
and
hard to.
I never knew that Luke didn't trust me as much as I had trusted him initially. So because like when he wrote my name down, I was like, what? All right, go on.
No, I mean, like, so like I was
My own fault.
saying, like Gracie, like this idea of like you playing an under the radar game. I've actually been watching it, and like I keep thinking to myself, I was like, she's not really playing under the radar at all. Like she's making big moves. She's doing things kind of out in the open. Yeah. But I thought it was interesting because you did receive votes at some tribal councils, and so like in the grand scheme of things, like, and I don't know what happens at the end, so I'm trying not to spoil it for myself. But like, is there a point in the game where you are thinking that people are thinking you're playing under the radar, and like, how did that affect you? And if not, like I guess like it's kind of hard because perspective wise, you know, is the jury perceiving it in a certain way? So like, how did you kind of manage that as you were thinking through the end game?
Totally. I mean, I thought the jury knew I was playing harder than maybe the crowd saw. Because I mean, at tribal councils, I mean, mine was just say as little as possible. Like when it comes to the end, then I can bring out my full personality and my resume and everything. But until that point, I was going to be real mute in tribal councils. But as far as like, I was talking with mostly everyone except for Bobby, which you can't talk with everyone. But I'd had strategy talk with everyone. And so I didn't think anyone I thought everyone on the jury admired the moves I made. So I wasn't worried about them thinking I was under the radar. And I needed something to, you know, kind of at the end of like, you know, no, it's not going to be me if we go to the end. Like if I needed that pitch, I'd be like, the jury is pissed at me. Like, especially Luke, did you see him storm out? Did you see Justin, how he screamed like, Zika's got my vote or whatever that was when he went out? Like, I made a lot of people mad. And so that was kind of like I used it in my tool belt of this is what I can use if I get in a pickle.
Love it.
Yeah, great.
Speaking of Justin at the tribal, let's see if I could pull it up. But when Justin is receiving the votes, you lean over. Did you guys catch this? Yes. I don't know. I definitely put it in here.
I was like, is Gracie trying to get his jury vote?
That's exactly what I was thinking. No. So maybe you could tell us, Gracie.
Yeah,
I don't know.
What's going on?
So this is when he's getting the votes. And oh wait, I skipped it.
Your face.
No, that was it. Yeah.
You just say what happened?
No,
what?
I remember this conversation.
What?
So this is where I told him, I said, no, I voted for you. And that's when he looks away. I told him I voted for him.
Oh. That's what his face is about.
When he after leading up to that vote, he told me, hey, they're going to write your name down. Like they're saying it's you. And I was like, Justin, they're saying it's you. It's one of us. We have to write each other's name down. And he goes, no, we don't. No, we don't. We can do something else. I was like, Justin, we have to write each other's name down. Like it's one of us. And so he knew, and then, you know, then he did the whole tribal thing. And I think he thought he was getting out of it. But I wasn't going to vote out Rachel at that point. And so that's where, and then you know, he asked me, did you go Rachel? And I said, what? And he goes, did you go Rachel? And I go, no, I voted you. And that's when he got mad.
Anthony voted Rachel. What about that? It worked on Anthony. Does anybody have any insight?
I have no idea where Anthony was at. Not a clue where Anthony was at.
Yeah, I don't remember. I guess we didn't tell Anthony what we were doing, but
we did before that.
Did we?
Maybe not. I don't think we brought Anthony in on any of it.
I don't know, because I know he came and huddled with us, but I don't know if there was ever a consensus there that, because we wouldn't have said Justin in front of Justin.
Right.
So we definitely, because we had told Rachel, Justin, so it was us three, and then David and Bobby. So those are the numbers already. So I guess it didn't matter where
Maybe Anthony it was a throne vote. Maybe we'll have to, on a future recap, we'll have to talk with him.
I mean, Anthony believed what Justin said. I think Anthony truly believed the four of us were going to go Rachel. Because, I mean, me and Louie were like, yeah, that works. That's great. Rachel.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
That had to have been the conversation. I wish I could remember crystal clear, but I can't. But
Yeah.
we certainly didn't let Justin know in that moment that we weren't going to be with him.
Right. But in that whispering when his vote was because I told him I wasn't going to lie to him, and I didn't lie to him. And so I told him, no, I voted you. You should have voted me.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have worked, but
yeah, exactly.
What happened? What happened? We were supposed to vote Rachel.
Well, I mean, he gets his wish in the next tribal council. He just isn't there to vote.
I know. So yeah, I mean, we've already talked about, the Rachel moment in the water. Like but Steven's question was that truly her downfall? Was putting the move out on Bobby? Yeah, because they were willing to turn on her. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that moment happens in the water, which is funny that I didn't realize that was caught on camera. So to see that moment
It
was so audio and everything. That was brilliant.
So the three of them are in the water, which it leaves. It was David. No, it was Anthony, Bobby, and I standing over by the puzzle, and I think that we had a moment of the three of us like maybe like the three of us should like work together or something.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many like fleeting conversations that kind of feel like that, so you never truly know like what's gonna like be true. But I remember being in that moment like, yeah, like I'm down for that. Oh my god, hi Naomi.
Naomi, she played season 1 of Buffalo.
Love her. So but then when they came out of the water, we had heard that moment happen, that Rachel and that like Bobby was like, wow, we have to do it. And that really like turned the gears for that move. Because I mean, literally the moment before, the vote before, we were just working with Rachel, so that's how fast things move in that game. And you have to be willing to adapt to what's going to have the most momentum.
And at the point, you guys knew that David had the idol. So you couldn't necessarily flip. Oh, you didn't know that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I thought you guys just kind of knew about it. Okay. Because Rachel says something, I think in Justin's tribal council, we're like, oh yeah, if he had it, he would have played it by now.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was just kind of like a ploy that you all were just kind of like, yeah, okay.
No, David played that brilliantly.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know. Going into the final tribal council. But yeah, so I mean, like, so okay, you don't know. So then like, why isn't David an option at that point?
He was a non-threat to me. I didn't see he was willing to fall on his own sword. I was like, are you even playing? Like how he quit a challenge because he wasn't feeling good. Like I was just like, this guy isn't here to play. So he was just like a non-factor to me.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Such a such a low threat level, oh, whatever. So if it wasn't Rachel's, if she wouldn't have made that blunder, do you guys have any idea who it would have been?
Anthony.
Because Bobby and David vote together, they're a block. You two vote together, you're a block. It's like you guys are choosing between Anthony and Rachel.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was no saving Rachel at that point, like none. Yeah. And so
Anthony's,
yeah, like I mean, David and Bob. I mean, Bobby's frazzled, obviously, and so I mean, you just have to switch.
I think at that moment I realized that Anthony, who had just voted Rachel, he was really looking for someone to be with. And I saw him lock into the boys.
Mm-hmm.
Because we weren't having like a lot of conversation, like I certainly didn't have a conversation with Anthony, Gracie, and Rachel that was like, yeah, it's us or anything.
Yeah.
And if that did, a foursome conversation like that did happen, it didn't feel authentic enough that it was true. I saw Anthony bond with the guys and I went, he's going to go that way.
Yeah.
And it's
that had been in the works too. If you
right. And you join him or you don't, so I think I picked up on that right when that moment's happening in the water. I saw Anthony and Bobby were like, yeah, let's do that. And I was like, yeah, I'm a bro. I can bro out you guys.
Yeah, bro, let's do it.
Sure.
Yeah, so it leaves, we leave this episode. It's you two and the three guys. So the three bros. So
last two Upons standing.
Yes. Yeah. Any other questions or any other thoughts from this episode or what we've seen so far?
I think just from a watcher standpoint, it's so interesting to see this kind of season 2. And John brings it up in the last tribal council, and unfortunately, Louie, you were the one kind of put on the spot in this, but like everybody had won an immunity challenge at that point, and like but even though you hadn't won one, you were kind of still on even playing field. Like nobody had gone any sort of like on an immunity spree or anything like that. So that becomes almost like a non-entity going into these last few rounds. So it's really about strategy. It's really about like gameplay. So I guess like in the grand scheme of things, as a watcher, again, I'm going to say like all 5 of you are on such an even playing field with where you're at in the game. And I think David, from a watcher perspective, is the guy to take out. But I think just from what you guys have expressed today, I think it's interesting to learn more about what's going on in the background, because even as an editing perspective, we can't catch everything. So it'll be really fun to watch the last episode. Is it one more episode or 2?
Two more episodes.
Oh, exciting.
Wow.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Well, exciting from a watcher perspective, maybe not from an editing perspective.
I was also going to add, I'm sure I'm going to say this on other recaps. I have like 2 thoughts, but like one is that when you look at this merge, there was no single GOAT person. Like there was none. I think we'll say that again, in other recaps. Like everybody was there to play. And I just keep on making comparisons to Survivor Second Chances, Cambodia. Like I just feel like it's so similar to Cambodia. The big merge, you've got the vote where all the votes are nullified.
Yeah.
You've got voting blocks. I mean, that's what I think. I think you've got groups of 2 or 3 going together and changing up. So I just like, and that's one of my top 5 favorite seasons ever. So as you guys know, I love your season. So it was such a blast, Gracie, I loved this the stay the course challenge when you come out of the lobster net and the crowd goes wild. Like Gracie.
Oh, I had so many scratches on my back after that.
Oh my gosh.
I just stood up at one point. It was I had so much more of an advantage than David, being like all of 5'2" and him being what 6'2" or something. Yeah,
you guys had to figure that one out. But it was so fun. It's great watching you guys play. So
thanks. Yeah, something I want to mention, and I kind of mentioned it briefly before, but like it is so interesting because you have a mindset of when you're playing, and then when you finish the game is over. Like I remembered things differently, or like I thought I remembered it a certain way. Like it was because then like the real Gracie personality comes in. It's like, oh, you didn't actually do that, did you? Like you wouldn't do that. And because I remember like talking with Travis and Luke and different players. I'm like, oh man, I had no idea. Like I totally would have wanted to save you or something. But like when I went back through, like when I did my podcast, and with Will, I remember what I was thinking, and it was like I was way more cutthroat than I wanted to be as like a human outside of the game. So it is interesting. Or like with Louie, I mean, as much as I was close with him, I'd be willing to chop him in a second, if it came, if it came down to that. And so it's so interesting, like how you play in the game, how you think, and then how you think of it just after, when all of the emotions are real fresh and raw. And then when you have some time where that kind of wears off of like, oh no, like I really did think that, or I really did play that, or I really was that like prideful about that. It's just different how you played versus how you remember it.
I would never do that. I go, what?
Yeah, like with the Travis vote out, I was like, Travis, I would have saved you. But then I remember thinking like, no, I'm not going to save Travis. Don't waste the extra vote on Travis. It's just, but I remember it totally different. Yeah, I had to like go back and put myself in that position. I think you can see it. Justin says, do I use my second vote? And I go, no, don't use the vote on Travis. And then that saved Louie. That vote is what saved Louie.
Literally.
He would have gone home.
Literally.
Yeah. The thing is, I also accidentally caused the second tie because I threw a vote on Bobby.
Yeah.
So
what was that?
which I didn't tell anybody that I did that because I knew that, everyone was going to be voting for Sam, but I guess I just didn't realize how many more, how many votes were going to come my way. I was like, I don't want another dog pile. And if she's going to play an idol, I need another vote to go somewhere. So we can force a tie between, if it's going to be me, at least one other person needs to have a vote. Because I thought it was going to be everybody again on Sam. And then she was going to vote me because that was the other name that was there. So I was like, let me just throw Bobby. So at least it's a tie between those two.
Oof.
But then doing that caused the tie, because if I just voted Sam, we had the extra vote. But these are things that,
so crazy.
Hoisting on my own petard.
That's
2020.
Yeah. But, I am like, little heads up, I'm almost done with the next episode because I have no confessionals to work with. So it's just,
that helps.
Yeah, that helps. I just straight up editing.
Yeah, like put clips together at that point.
Yeah, just, so that, who knows?
I love that all my
maybe I'll
confessionals
release it sooner. I know.
Are from like day one and two, because like I which is fine, but I remember saying, like, one of the confessionals that I spoke to this episode was like, and like I'm like really like a physical like I'm surprised myself how great I am, and then it's like me being a hot mess. I'm like, yeah, I said that on day 2. Like day 3, day 5, my physical performance was like in my sand.
Truly surprising myself. Truly surprising. Yeah, sorry about that, but you gotta work with what you gotta work with, right? You gotta be in the episode.
Totally.
Yeah, I can't wait to fix all my problems next season. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the next episode, seeing what you guys end up doing in this game. What's gonna happen? It's gonna be fun. Mike, do you want to make any predictions for the next episodes? And we're gonna keep like straight face. Like,
I know.
What do you think is gonna happen next?
Okay, so I think honestly, okay. So there's what I think and what I want. What I want to happen is a Gracie win. Like, straight up, like, I am a 100% Gracie fan. However, I think what's going to happen is I think Bobby could pull this off, because I think that last immunity win, I think the fact that he's kind of got like some pull here and there, but yet learning that Gracie and Bobby never really talked is interesting. So I don't know. I think Bobby could pull it off, because I don't think David played hard enough. So if the two of them end up in the end together, I think Bobby might squeak it out. But I think Gracie, if you end up in the final 3 or 2 or whatever it is, I think Gracie pulls off the win. That's my hope.
Interesting. All right. I kept my face straight the whole time.
Yeah.
Love it.
Louie was doing a good job too. He's like,
I know, he was like,
he was either mad that I didn't pick him, or he's like, I know things you don't know.
Yeah, both.
I tried to do the affirming.
Yes, both of those.
Yeah.
Well, Louie, I think that you could make it to the end. I just think that you're a big target for the other guys. I think that you're gonna. I think if you can make it past like final 5, I think you might have a shot. I think that you're the next target, and that scares me. And I'm sorry for you if it is true. But I'm nervous for you. I think that's the part that doesn't make me pick you.
For me, so.
Yeah, and Mike, I think you nailed it when you said that these final 5 like had so many different things going for them. Like, I think that's really helped me like watch the episodes, appreciate like each of their game more. Because like I didn't like in the game, I had this one perspective, but it's helped me like round out like, oh wow, like Bobby, that was awesome, or David, wow, look at you go. It was fun. It was fun seeing the caliber of players that were going on behind the scenes that you don't see.
I thought Bobby was a true merge boot. Like, I didn't think he was going to get very far at all. So the fact that he's here, I'm surprised, and listening to his confessionals, I think that he does have a pulse on what's going on. So I think that that's why I kind of am leaning toward, if he gets to the end, he could pull it off. But I'm rooting for you, Gracie.
Thanks.
I'm rooting for you too, Gracie.
Thanks, Louie. I'm always rooting for you, Louie.
I know, right? Love it. Well, that is all I've got for tonight's episode recap. We'll do this again for the next episode with some other guests, and then for the finale with whoever makes it. And been loving this adventure, guys. So cool. This has been fun. Thank you guys so much for coming on. This has been so fun. And we'll see everybody next time.
I
for
hope we get to
episode
celebrate
2.
with one of you. Yeah.